Hey guys, it's your girl, Eurydice Fury, and I am back again today with another update about none other than Casey Anthony. Probably the most hated woman in America, because new details about the docuseries that she's making with Peacock at the end of the month, or rather it's coming out at the end of the month, have been surfacing. And thanks to People Magazine, I had the details just for you. So, let's get into it. Now, these new details are quite alarming, in my opinion, just because the main thing is that Casey Anthony is now apparently blaming her father for what happened to her daughter, Kaylee. Yes, you heard that right. She blames her father for Kaylee passing away. And this article from People says, Casey Anthony is finally speaking out and placing the blame for her daughter's death squarely on her father, George Anthony. Anthony, now 36, is telling her version of events on Casey Anthony, Where the Truth Lies, a 3-part limited series which begins streaming on November 29th on Peacock. In the documentary, she sits down for her first on-camera interview. In 2008, Anthony became internationally famous after the disappearance of her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee. 6 months after the girl vanished, Katie's remains were found in a wooded area near the family home. During her extensive interview, Anthony dropped several bombshells and elaborates on allegations that she had been essayed by her father, George, and her brother, Lee. Both men vehemently deny her claims in court and have never been charged. In her documentary, Anthony alleges that her father staged Kaylee's drowning in order to cover up that he may have been abusing his granddaughter. I wasn't feeling that great and I wanted to lay down. I had her lay in bed with me. I was awoken by my father shaking me and asking me where Kaylee was. That didn't make sense. She would never even leave my room without telling me. I immediately started looking around the house. I go outside and I'm looking to see where she could be. He was standing with her, she says. She was soaking wet. He handed her to me, said it was my fault, that I caused it. But he didn't rush to call 911, and he wasn't trying to resuscitate her. I collapsed with her in my arms. She was heavy and she was cold. He takes her from me, immediately softens his tone and says, "It's going to be okay." I wanted to believe him. He took her from me and he went away. Anthony says she went to stay with her then boyfriend, Tony Lazzaro, but didn't tell anyone what had happened. She says she was under the impression that Kaylee was dead. During the 31 days, I genuinely believed that Kaylee was still alive. My father kept telling me she was okay. I had to keep following his instructions. He told me what to do. I tried to act as normal as I could. When asked if she believes that Kaylee drowned in the above-ground pool, Anthony said no. There was no ladder, no way for her to shimmy up. There's no way to explain that unless George put her in the pool to cover up what he did. In the interview, Anthony makes a damning accusation against her father. He'd put a pillow over my face and smother me to knock me out. That happened several times. I'm sure there were times where I was incapacitated as a child, where my body was limp and lifeless. Anthony says that she worries that her father had moved on to abusing Kaylee. That's what I think about. I wish every day I had said something to someone about something. Maybe then things would be different. Okay, a lot to unpack here. First of all, in my opinion, conspiracy, whatever, Casey Anthony is a damn liar. And I don't believe a word she says. Because first off, let me humor her accusations for a minute. If her father really was guilty of abusing her daughter, like she claims, then that completely differs than the interview that she had with police, where she claimed that a babysitter took Kaylee and disappeared with her. And if she really felt that her father was doing these things to her daughter, Why did she not speak up? I mean, I know what she said at the end of the article, but still, why would she allow her daughter to be around him? And why did she not press charges if she thought that something was happening? None of it makes sense to me. Second of all, I remember this case very vividly when I was a teenager. And I remember seeing a report that during Kaylee's autopsy, or lack thereof, it was reported that they literally could not even tell how Kaylee passed away because she was too badly decomposed. I'll see if I can link something down in the description while editing this, but I remember that was what was reported on, that they couldn't tell how she died because her remains were too badly decomposed. And also, she was buried near the family home. So for her to come out and say that, oh, I wanted to hope that she was still alive, that doesn't even make any sense considering the evidence and the fact that, like I said, Kaylee was found buried near the family home. So how could her father be standing there holding her limp, wet body after she had supposedly drowned in their pool? I don't know. None of what she says makes sense, and like I said, in my opinion, she's a liar and always has been. And also the fact that she can't take accountability even to this day, all these years later, about what happened to her daughter Kaylee and the role that she might have played in all of this, is also infuriating to me. But I'm not the only one who has doubts about her story. Apparently, so does the jury. Because while I was reading this article, I found another piece from People magazine titled, "Casey Anthony Juror Speaks Out 10 Years Later. My Decision Haunts Me." 10 years ago, 7 women and 5 men were sworn in as jurors in the Casey Anthony trial, perhaps the most high-profile trial in the past 20 years. For 2 months, the jurors were sequestered in a hotel. They sat through 33 days of testimony, examined more than 400 pieces of evidence, and heard 91 witnesses testify. From May to July 2011, none of the jurors, or the 5 alternates, missed a day in court. Although the 40 million Americans watching the case on live television couldn't see their faces, the media in the courtroom studied their every move. Almost everyone predicted that these 12 jurors would convict Anthony of murder in the death of her 2-year-old daughter. And then the jurors did the unthinkable, acquitting her of all the serious charges against her. She was only convicted of lying to police. 2 weeks later, she walked free from jail. The jurors have kept a low profile since the controversial verdict, many of them moving from the area after they were publicly named. Most of them have refused to give interviews. I would too if I let a murderer walk free. I would go into hiding and never come out again, because the shame and guilt would be too much. But that's just me. A month after the verdict, one of the male jurors spoke with People to explain his take on what happened. "Generally, none of us like Casey Anthony at all," he told People. "She seems like a horrible person. But the prosecutor did not give us enough evidence to convict. They gave us a lot of stuff that makes us think she probably did something wrong, but not beyond a reasonable doubt." 10 years later, that same juror has been rethinking the case. "I think of the case at least once every single day. It was such a strange summer. I knew that there was public interest in the case, but it wasn't until after I was sequestered that I realized that the whole world was watching. At the time, the jurors were focused on the case and the attorneys. The jurors said that he found the prosecutors to be arrogant, Well, lead defense attorney Jose Baez was the only one in the room who seemed like he cared. But now the jurors' focus is on Kaylee Anthony, who was just 2 years old when she died. Every time I see her face or hear her name, I get a pit in my stomach. It all comes flooding back. I think about those pictures of the baby's remains that they showed us in court. I remember Casey. I even remember the smell of the courtroom. 10 years ago, several jurors said that they battled their consciences as they voted to acquit Anthony of murder charges. The male juror told people at the time that the enormity of the acquittal bothered them in the jury room. And then we sat there for a few minutes and were like, holy crap, we are letting her go free, he told people in 2011. Everyone was just stunned at what we were about to do. One of the women jurors asked me, "Are you okay with this?" And I said, "Hell no. But what else can we do? We promised to follow the law." Now the juror says he might have done things differently. "My decision haunts me to this day," he says. I think now if I were to do it over again, I'd push harder to convict her of one of the lesser charges like aggravated manslaughter. At least that. Or child abuse. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I didn't stand up for what I believed in at the time. Some of the jurors kept up on group text messages for several months after the trial, but soon people stopped responding. It was painful for everyone. I just remember feeling sick every time I saw one of the jurors' names on my phone. So I muted the chat and stopped engaging. It was just too hard. Despite it all, the juror says he doesn't completely regret his time in the jury. It's traumatic to think about, and I wish I had done a lot of things differently. But it's a part of who I am. This case will stick with me for the rest of my life. As it well should. Because, as I reiterate, they all let a murderer, a child murderer at that, walk free. In my opinion, conspiracy, whatever. And it should haunt them for the rest of their lives because they made a terrible decision. And even though sending Casey Anthony to jail would never bring Kaylee back, she deserved a lot better than what she got, which was absolutely nothing. And I feel like even to this day that she passed away for no reason other than having a terrible mother. But of course, that's just me. I want to hear what you guys think down in the comments. And if you're going to watch this docuseries on Peacock, I might check it out just to see what nonsense comes out of her mouth so that you guys don't have to. But that's all I have for now. I'm Eurydice Fiore, and I will see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.